Hello and welcome to our webinar today from Field to Finance, Simplifying Accounting for Service Businesses with QuickBooks and Housecall Pro. I am Heather Rutherford. I am Senior Marketing Manager for Partner Demand Gen with QuickBooks. We're going to go ahead and give people just a minute to join. So in the meantime, we just want to launch a quick poll and see, what kind of role we're getting to attending this webinar today. So if you don't mind, take a quick second and answer that poll. Which role best describes you? Are you accountant, pro advisor, bookkeeper, staff accountant, accounting client services, accounting manager, controller, accounting leadership, home services business owner, field service professional, or office administrator, business manager? We just want to know who we got joining us today. So go ahead and take a second to just answer that poll while we wait for others to join. All right. We saw people joining. For those who just joined, I launched a poll asking what role are you in? We'd like to see where everyone's coming from. So just take a second to answer that question and then we'll get things kicked off. Give people just a few more seconds. We have about 70% of people have answered and we still have people joining. This is awesome. So go ahead and answer that poll if you get a second. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share those results. So it looks like the majority Intuit Accountant Pro Advisor, 32%, 45% Bookkeeper Staff Accountant, 10% Accounting Manager Controller, 3% Accounting Leadership, and then 10% Other. So very interesting. All right, I am kicking things off today. So I'm Heather Rutherford with QuickBooks, and I'm really excited about doing this webinar with our partner Housecall Pro from Field to Finance, Simplifying Accounting for Service Businesses. Just a few quick housekeeping notes. We do have attendee chat enabled. We want this to be interactive, so engage with us. If something resonates with you, feel free to put in the attendee chat. This is a conversation. This is a dialogue throughout the entire webinar with you, the attendees. We also want to ask you to put any questions in the Q&A. We will have a live Q&A portion at the very, very end. We'll be answering those questions live. You can upvote other people's questions if you really want to have that answered live at the end. So look at those questions in the Q&A, answer them live. This is being recorded. We will be sharing the webinar recording and presentation deck with you all via email tomorrow. So just keep an eye out for that in your inbox tomorrow. And then if you need closed captioning, you can go to your Zoom panel, click Show Captions, and it will do the closed captioning. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Pooja with Housecall Pro to kick things off and introduce our speakers today. Thank you.
1 second, having some technical difficulties. Can't figure out where the presentation went. So I'm going to stop sharing really quick and then reshare.
We can also share the presentation if you need, Pooja. Just let us know how we can help.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
All right. We will be kicking off with our agenda, getting the little housekeeping done that Heather went through, and then doing speaker introductions, going into a little bit of background about Housecall Pro, and then our QuickBooks integration. Madison on the call will be sharing a demo, and then we'll be having either a customer story, and James Griner will also be joining us today to share some expert insights, and then we'll close out with a live Q&A. Going into speakers, so I'll be going through background about Housecall Pro. I'm a product marketing manager here. And then Madison is our senior specialist on onboarding. She'll be walking us through the demo. And then James Griner is joining us. He has a lot of experience working with our pros and the QuickBooks integration, and then just speaking a little bit more about industry best practices and how the integration can help you. And then Amber will be joining for a customer testimonial. Going into what's Housecall Pro, let's start by grounding ourselves a little bit. Can everyone either give me a thumbs up or a heart if you're familiar with Housecall Pro? Um, Going into a little bit of background, Housecall Pro is the leading operations platform built specifically for home service pros. Our mission is simple. We help streamline your workflows, strengthen your cash flow, and deliver an exceptional customer experience all in one unified system. And how would you know if it's the right time to adopt the system or if you're already thinking about it? I'll share some common entry points and where it would make sense for you to join. Housecall Pro attracts home service businesses at key inflection points in their growth journey, typically when they're outgrowing any manual or disconnected tools or need some software to help them scale efficiently. A lot of our pros join when they're launching their new business or transitioning from a side hustle to full-time. Or owners also often adapt or expand when they feel financial pressure, tax prep, or for payroll or compliance events. And some also join when they start taking card payments or realize that they're missing out on some leads because they're lacking an online booking or review management system. So what does someone get out of all this? On the operations side, Housecall Pro replaces a lot of the messy combination of whiteboards, pen and paper, text messages, and sticky notes and tools and adds tools that actually work with the way your business works. And that includes scheduling and dispatching so the right tech gets to the right job at the right time. It also has estimates and invoicing, which can help you quote faster, get approvals instantly, and then get paid quickly. And then also customer management or CRM capabilities. These all keep customer details, communications, and job history all in one place. And then flipping to the financial side, Housecall Pro also helps tighten up cash flow to stay on top of your books. And we offer payments and instant payouts. This helps get money into your account as soon as the job is done. A seamless QuickBooks integration for those who rely on QuickBooks for their bookkeeping or thinking about incorporating QuickBooks, but also want a content management tool or content management system. And then reporting and business insights that show you what's working, what's not, and where your business is headed. So in short, Housecall Pro brings you operations and your financials into one connected platform. It gives you a complete picture of your business and then saves you hours every week so you can focus on the jobs that make you money. And now going into a little bit about QuickBooks. We can walk through how Housecall Pro connects the field operations to the books through its integration with QuickBooks Online. Because this is a lot of times the number one reasons many accountants and bookkeepers join these sessions. We want to share how these two products work together to create this unified workflow that syncs your job information with invoices, payments, and financial data automatically. For those of you who support service-based clients, this integration eliminates a large amount of the manual reconciliation, the data cleanup that happens typically at the end of the month. But here's like what that looks like in practice. First, simplified operations and financial clarity. Every time a job is completed in Housecall Pro, the associated invoice and payments details sync into the QuickBooks Online. That includes things like taxes, customer information, and payment methods. This makes sure that the books reflect what actually happened in the field without your client having to go back and re-enter the data or you having to piece together missing information later. And then second, faster payments and stronger cash flow. When pros invoice and collect payments digitally through Housecall Pro, those transactions post to QuickBooks immediately. This helps you maintain accurate cash flow reporting in real time and reduces discrepancies between the field work and bank reconciliation. And then for those clients who operate on really thin margins or rely on predictable cash flow, this automation removes a lot of the uncertainty. And then third, seamless collaboration and shared visibility. One of the biggest benefits for advisors here is that you and your client are finally looking at the same numbers. Job activity in the field flows directly into the financial system without gaps or delays. This makes reconciliation way easier, improves categorization and accuracy, and then also creates a cleaner foundation for advisory services and works in progress reporting. So to simply put, Housecall Pro and QuickBooks integration gives contractors a streamlined field to finance workflow and gives you, as their advisor, more accurate data, fewer errors, and more time to provide high level and high value insights. Before we talk about how the actual integration works together, it's important that we take a step back and acknowledge the very real challenges that service businesses and the accountants who support them face every single day. There are root problems we're solving through the integration, and for many of you, these problems will feel really familiar because they're often things you're cleaning up month to month and during tax season. And then at any point in here, give me a thumbs up if you can relate to some of these challenges that you're facing or you could be facing. The first major challenge is disconnected systems. And many home service businesses, field operations, and financial operations live in completely separate worlds. You've got one tool for scheduling, another for estimates, and another for invoicing. And then QuickBooks is sitting off to the side waiting for someone to manually type everything in. This creates a huge amount of friction. The data gets duplicated, invoices don't always match records, and then payments can fall through the cracks. And then accountants end up spending hours just trying to understand what happened in the field versus what made it into the books. When systems don't talk to each other, the accuracy suffers. And then second is delayed payments. A lot of trade businesses still rely on manual invoicing or inconsistent follow-up, which slows down the entire billing cycle. And then when billing is slow, cash flow becomes unpredictable. And then third, major challenge is a manual reconciliation. This is a part that accountants feel most painfully. When job data, invoices, payments, and deposits don't align, you're stuck. You have to end up matching each transaction one by one, fixing duplicates created when clients try to help out, untangling the partial payments, or correcting some misapplied deposits. It's not just tedious, it's risky, and it impacts the accuracy of the books delivered, and it can delay reporting in the end. And when we fix these foundational problems, everything's upstream, the client and accountant, everyone's happy, and it becomes dramatically easier and more accurate. And I will now pass it on over to Madison, who will walk us through some of our core product and the QuickBooks integration.
Hi everyone, it's so nice to meet with you all today. My name is Madison Piceno. I'm one of the senior onboarding specialists here at Housecall Pro. Our team works with new pros who have recently enrolled in the platform to meet with them on a recurring basis until they're up and running successfully in the software. So today we're going to be going over some of the basics of the integration. I'm also going to demo the Housecall Pro platform and the QuickBooks online platform that we have integrated as it's a test QuickBooks account. So not from a real business, but one that we use to show. So I also have my colleague Dallin on the line. He's from our data ops team who works in tandem with onboarding. So if you guys have questions, you can put them in the Q&A section now or at the end as well, and he will make sure to get your questions answered. So a little bit of an overview, we do integrate with both QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. For QuickBooks Online, we integrate with QuickBooks Online Essentials Plus or Advanced, so just not the Simple Start version or the self-employed. It is a one-way integration, so your jobs or invoices from Housecall Pro are pushing into QuickBooks Online as opposed to QuickBooks pushing over to Housecall. And then there are certain triggers in the system that cause that push to happen. So when a job gets finished or an invoice is sent or paid, that is what's going to start that integration. And I will demo that process after this slide. And then one important thing to note as well is the estimating software of Housecall Pro. So working up bids and estimates for customers, that data is not going to push over to Housecall in any capacity. And then for QuickBooks Desktop, so we do integrate with QuickBooks Desktop, the Contractor, Pro, Premier, or Enterprise. And it is important that they're using a system that's within the last 3 years, so 2022 or newer. And it is only the PC version, so not the Mac version of QuickBooks Desktop. If somebody has an older version, it is important that they get their version of QuickBooks Desktop updated in order to integrate with Housecall Pro to ensure it is working properly. And then QuickBooks Desktop does need to be in a single user mode for Housecall Pro to sync. We do have a QuickBooks desktop web connector, and the frequency that you're syncing invoices can be changed, or you can run a manual sync as well in that single user mode. And then same thing there when jobs and invoices are marked as finished, or the invoice is sent to the customer or paid by the customer, that is going to be those trigger points as well. Now I will go ahead and take over sharing here. Perfect. So this is an example of signing into our Housecall Pro account here. We can see on this homepage, I have this line at the top that's showing me all the estimates I have open, any jobs that are unscheduled that I need to put on the calendar, as well as open invoices. So for my business here, Harry's HVAC, a lot of people owe me money. Hopefully most businesses aren't owed $2 million, but we can scroll down here and see I have my summary of jobs from today as well. You also have this section here for jobs for today or tomorrow to see where those jobs are on the calendar. And then we have an activity section at the bottom, and then a brief overview of what is scheduled as well. So I'm going to go over to the schedule tab to, let's see here. Give me one second. My screen is just a little bit, that's why. There we go. Zoomed out. So I can see here that I have my schedule for the week. I just have one job on the calendar for tomorrow. So for most businesses, this is going to be like filled up with a good amount of jobs, and you have a preview on the schedule of who's the employee, the location of the job, the amount that it's for. And then this job is unassigned, so I don't have an employee assigned to it yet, but a lot of businesses will dispatch their jobs same day and choose like what technician is going to go out and do the work. And then in the schedule, I can also come over here and see all my different team members, employees on this column. If I just wanted to look at one person's calendar or see what jobs still need to be dispatched, I could see all my unassigned jobs that I still need to assign a team member to. Now I'm going to click into this job that I have created for tomorrow. And we can see here, this job I created for demo purposes just to show it's on the schedule. I marked it as finished already, and then I pushed the invoice to the customer. So those circles are filled in blue here to see. And then we have the exclamation point to indicate that the customer owes us $150. At the bottom of every job, we have this QuickBooks section at the bottom. So because this job has been marked as finished, it has synced over to QuickBooks. So I can easily click on this link, and it's going to bring me over to QuickBooks and bring me right into that invoice in QuickBooks. So it has pushed over for me the same invoice number, the customer information, and the products that the service entails. Those all came over from my job, even the description there. Now, when it comes to an overview of your QuickBooks alerts or jobs that have synced over to QuickBooks, you have this QuickBooks icon up in the top right corner that you can easily click on to see anything QuickBooks related that you need to. If you had any sort of alert messages, those would show up here. If something needs to be updated, such as like the tax rate not syncing up or the customer not being found in QuickBooks, you would have alerts in this area, and you'd have a little like a 1 next to the QuickBooks icon. We also can import. So when we have a pro who's first signed up for Housecall Pro, if they've been using QuickBooks for a long time, they can import their data from QuickBooks into Housecall Pro. So we can see here this history, this import history to see what came over successfully, We can also import items from their price book from QuickBooks into Housecall when they first start using it. So they're pulling from the same list of services. So that makes the integration really seamless for users. You also can have that banking information connected over here for your accounts. And then the account details allows you to see um, everything that has come over, the sign-in credentials, the membership. This is a QuickBooks Online Advanced. So that is all visible over here. I know there's been some questions popping in the chat, so we will make sure to answer those. This was more of a high-level demo, but just to kind of go into some other areas of Housecall Pro, the customer lists can all be imported from QuickBooks as well. Um, and I will be sharing in the chat two links, one for our QuickBooks Online support resources, as well as our QuickBooks Desktop resources. So those can be used to find answers to questions that you have on any sync alerts or integration questions overall as well. I will stop sharing now and pass it over to, is Amber going to go next? I saw Amber join the call.
Yes, I believe so. I'll go back to sharing my screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Pooja.
And I think someone in the chat asked if you can have more than one bank account connected.
As far as the connecting to Housecall Pro, like to process payments through Housecall Pro, you typically just connect one bank account for deposit. So when a customer pays you, um, your payments sync into that one bank account.
Thanks for that.
Yeah,
And I will pass it on to Amber. She'll talk through a little bit more about her experience with Housecall Pro and some tidbits that she'd like to share.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amber. I am one of the owners of DeLong and Sons HVAC out of Shoemakersville, Pennsylvania. We're about an hour and 20 minutes north of Philly. We've been using Housecall Pro since we opened our business in 2021. My favorite thing when it comes to the financial side of using Housecall Pro is how seamlessly taking payments is. So my field techs can take payments while they're out there. If a customer needs to call in and make a payment, I can take their payment over the phone. If they want to pay via their customer portal where they have ACH options, if it's a business, they can do that. I always have full and complete visibility of those payments. So it makes it a whole lot easier just to kind of keep track of all that information in one place. I personally manually put my invoices into QuickBooks, but that's just because I'm a control freak and I like to enter things completely on my own. So we've been using it for the last 4 years and have never had any issues. It makes my accountant's life a whole lot easier. It makes my life a whole lot easier. I can easily see collecting outstanding payments. The overall the simplicity of having it all to in one is the best benefit rather than having multiple systems that you're cross entering in, or you can't see the payment visibility, or only your field techs might be able to take payments and you can't take them over the phone. In 2023, we briefly dabbled in potentially switching field service systems, and it was very quickly apparent that not all field service systems are alike. And a lot of what that other system was everything would have fallen on me in the office. My technicians couldn't take payments in the field. They would have to call me to take the payment, or the customer would have to call me to take the payment. So once we realized that the other system was tied directly to a singular laptop and not being able to do things from tablets or cell phones in the field, we were pretty quick to realize that that was not an option. And we put the kibosh to the switch and continued with Housecall Pro, where we have been ever since. And I do a lot of these webinars talking to people about the simplicity and how easy it is to manage things within Housecall Pro. And you can see everything from a drop of an eye to be able to tell the financial health of your business.
Amazing. Thanks, Amber, for sharing your story. I will now
Absolutely.
pass it on to James. We'll talk more into his experience and some accounting feedback.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, guys, or morning if you're still over on the West Coast. I guess you guys haven't quite got on lunch yet. My name's James Griner. I am the founder and CEO of Waterford Business Solutions. We've been working with Housecall Pro a lot since 2017, so fairly early on in their kind of inception. Understanding the QuickBooks integration and everything there, and working with a lot of pros. We have in our business unit well over, we're actually nearing over 200 companies that use Housecall Pro that we maintain the books, taxes, everything like that for. But we work in many other systems too, dependent on what the client really needs. But generally, depending on clients, Housecall is one of the ones that I recommend strongly just because of the ease of use and everything there. It is a much simpler program to run with there, much simpler use to kind of take care of everything for clients compared to some of the other programs out there. I'm going to take kind of two different perspectives on HCP, and then we're running a little bit ahead of the schedule that Pooja gave me. So if she doesn't mind, I'll go over some of the accounting questions that I'm seeing coming in, and or if I have some time, some best practices. Pooja, you just tell me when to stop talking and I'll be quiet.
Definitely ahead of schedule.
But from a accountant feedback perspective, I like having Housecall Pro into my QuickBooks integration just because many companies and accountants, they're only really looking at their books in a cash basis of accounting. They're not really looking at everything going on. They aren't doing nearly as much of the details with accrual coming in. They're not recognizing when the sales are coming in versus when the expenses and bills are coming in. So it causes businesses to make decisions based off of what's sitting in their bank account rather than the actual workload that they're seeing. When I have Housecall Pro integrated, I can actually work with clients to look at their books more in a accrual basis of accounting, and we can make sure that all of the invoicing data is being pushed over into QuickBooks automatically. We can get their bills coded in here, and we can look at what's physically going on in their business in a full accrual basis of accounting and make decisions, run KPI analysis for labor metrics, material metrics, anything and everything like that, that all these companies should be looking at to go ahead and take a look at everything there and better understand what's physically going on in their business versus what is not going on in their business or issues that they're assuming are occurring. So it makes things a lot more accurate for them. It also allows us for cross checks. A lot of times I'll be working with a client and they'll get a payment that gets recorded that they think, oh, I'm not owed on this invoice anymore. But by having QuickBooks here, we can find out that the service technician never gave them the check. They never brought the check to the office, or it never cleared their bank, or the financing company never worked. So it gives us some different cross checks that we can get in there and take a look at some different things there. So makes it a whole lot better there. The other side of things is what are some things that HCP does that QuickBooks doesn't do? That'll be on the next slide for whoever's handling that one. With that, QuickBooks really for the trade pros, they're just allowing for invoicing. We're not having the ability to schedule technicians to create schedules, create dispatch paths to figure out where everything is going and anything there. Allowing you to text and talk with customers, prepare recurring service agreements or anything like that. All of that is stuff that exists within Housecall that allows me to go ahead and keep track of the finances the same way I would in QuickBooks, but gives my client a lot more data on what they need as a service technician for scheduling, recurring invoicing, everything like that, that would be a lot more difficult within or require multiple different systems directly within QuickBooks there, which is really good. As far as kind of a lot of different questions going on, I've made a few here. I might be missing a few things here and there, so please keep that in mind. I saw someone asking about the integration direction. That was um, already answered in the Q&A, but the integration direction is mostly a single direction integration. That is going to be something where everything that's done in house call has triggers that do push it to QuickBooks, but there are some areas where we have dual integration. So once a invoice gets pushed over, we can pull payments from QuickBooks over into House Call Pro. So there's a little bit of dual integration. However, it's predominantly a single integration where what you do in House Call gets pushed to QuickBooks, not what you do in QuickBooks going to House Call. Another one that I saw was invoice versus job numbers. Again, this one was answered. I'm not going to do too many more of these because Heather might yell at me because she's already putting comments in here. But there was a time where House Call attempted to transition to a separation of invoice versus job numbers. There has been a patch shipped for that. And if you go into the settings or chat into House Call Pro support, they can make sure that the invoice and job numbers align again. So if you're running into an issue where the invoice and job numbers aren't aligning, there is a fix for that in the settings. And if you can't quickly find it, you can simply chat into the support team there with House Call, and they can turn that switch on the back end for you so that the numbers in House Call are matching everything there. So that is all there. One other one that I'll answer, and then I'm not going to go any further, is about bank accounts. The bank accounts within House Call, everything that's going to come over from House Call is going to go into undeposited funds for payments. House Call will automatically integrate with one bank account to deposit credit cards to. So all credit card transactions will go into the one credit card account based off of what you have set up with House Call for that credit card deposit, because you can only set up for credit cards deposit into one credit card account. But if you're receiving checks, if you're receiving Venmos, if you're receiving ACH payments, anything like that outside of House Call, that will all be in undeposited funds so that you could go ahead and make sure that when you're doing all of that there, it's going to come over here into that undeposited funds. You can batch it together and you can put it into the correct bank account through the undeposited fund screen. So you can have multiple bank accounts. Thomas, I saw that you asked that one. I don't know if that's specifically what you're asking there. But you can have multiple bank accounts to deposit things to by using the undeposited funds like you should within QuickBooks in the first place. The other things that I would say is for a best practices thing. Simple integration here. Undeposited funds is a huge factor with House Call Pro. Like I said, all of your payments are going to go into undeposited funds. I see so many clients, both on the service side where you've got the business owner doing everything, and on the accountant side where the accountant's doing everything. They don't take the time to deposit the money from undeposited funds into the bank account before they use the bank feed within QuickBooks to add everything there. If you are not matching bank deposits from the bank feed in QuickBooks to a bank deposit already created from undeposited funds, you will run into duplicated income. Time and time again, I hear in Facebook groups, or I have clients come to me that are complaining their income's off or House Call Pros messed up their income. And I'll say 80 to 85% of the time, it's coming from the fact that clients have not made sure that they make the bank deposit in the undeposited funds in the bank deposit screen in QuickBooks before they add on the bank fee. So they're taking from the bank feed and adding everything to sales, even though the invoices already exist within QuickBooks here. So that's a big factor there. The other thing that I would say is keep in mind House Call Pro has a few little things with income mapping. If you want your income broken out, which you should break it out, you've got to make sure that you're using your price book into QuickBooks and Housecall, and everything within Housecall needs to be within your price book, because the price book is what breaks down the income. That's what allows us to break down all of the income and everything there. So that's a huge factor there, that a lot of people, they don't use the price book, or they create items that aren't in there, and then they can't get the breakdown between their service or their install division or their plumbing versus anything else there. So the price book within Housecall Pro will push over into QuickBooks, but you have to make sure all of your price book items are physically listed in the price book, because within Housecall on an invoice, you can create a product and service directly on the invoice, but it wouldn't actually exist in the price book. And so when it pushes to QuickBooks, it just comes over as sales, as the product and service. Then we can't do anything there. As long as your price book is set up in Housecall Pro and you're using the items off the price book and mapping off the price book, you're good there. But if you're just creating random items on an invoice, it's not going to allow an income breakdown. This goes into a lot of things. We have clients that want to track income breakdowns, but we also have clients that want to track deposit liabilities. If I want to track a deposit liability, I have to be using a deposit price book item that maps to my deposit liability account to be able to offset that against future invoices. And I can make all of that occur on the back end automatically. But the price book is a huge factor of making sure all of this is occurring, all of it's working, to give you a lot of these, what I would call best practices, because I love having my clients to have deposit liability accounts so that we are not recognizing income until they finish a job. I love having breakdowns for my clients of what they're doing for service versus install versus RSAs or service agreements, maintenance agreements, things like that. Breaking down between business units, having all of that there. All of that is things that I love for my clients to have, but it's super, super dependent on the price book. The other best practice that I will say, and it is something that Housecall is actively working on fixing with their integration team, is do be cautious of some differences in terminology. Remember, Housecall Pro is a dispatch platform, not an accounting platform. If you issue a refund in Housecall, you've got to be cautious of how it pushes over into QuickBooks. So I see a lot of people that complain about some issues there. A refund in Housecall opens an invoice back up to payment, whereas that doesn't occur in QuickBooks. So in Housecall, if we refund and we're not taking another payment, we have to scroll down to that QuickBooks Online link that Madison showed us, and there's 3 dots there that allow us to go ahead and receive a local payment. That will make sure it's paid in Housecall, and it doesn't push over duplicate payments or negative invoices or anything like that into QuickBooks, so that we keep both systems accurate and terminology accurate between both systems. So there's little things like that. Refunds would be the biggest one that I say that I see there. I can keep going, Pooja. I don't know how much you want me to go here.
We can go a little bit longer. I think after this, we can go into just like closing remarks and then open up Q&A.
Okay, perfect. I don't see. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of a few other ones that are going on here. Sales tax is going to be another one that they are actively working on. I saw someone ask about that. Currently, Housecall Pro does not have a automated sales tax system in place like we do with QuickBooks. So you do have to make sure that you have custom rates created in QuickBooks by the percent and everything like that. Once it pushes over to QuickBooks, the custom rate QuickBooks will go ahead and break down by city, state, in anything like that. QuickBooks will break all that down once it comes over into QuickBooks, but you have to make sure that you create those custom rates in QuickBooks in the first place. Otherwise, it won't do the breakdown for you, or it'll become a little bit of a gobbledygook in the back end and not nearly as pretty. So sales tax does integrate, but you do have to go through everything there to make sure that whatever you have set up manually for sales tax in House Call is also set up into manually in QuickBooks through custom sales tax rates in QuickBooks. Um, there is a feature within House Call called Housecall Pro Accounting. That is a more do-it-yourself program. Pooja, I'm not sure if that's something you want to talk specifically about because I saw someone just ask about that and was getting a little bit confused on the features there. But there is that, but the HCP accounting is not a QuickBooks integration. That is a third party, kind of they're doing the accounting directly through Housecall Pro for you. So that's a different business unit within Housecall there. I think that's kind of the biggest best practices without me digging into a lot of things there.
Awesome. Thanks, James. We can go into a little bit of a recap here. Here's some like Q&A questions that are like a little bit FAQ-ish that you guys can take a reference at, and then kind of recapping a lot of benefits of integrating with Housecall Pro for both just like the QuickBooks integration and then simplifying your day-to-day in your business, whether you're a new business coming up into the environment or you are growing your business and adding more employees and getting more established. It can help you figure out those day-to-day kinks. And then a lot of the benefits that you could get is a seamless integration, connecting not just your field operations, but to financial data in real time, having smarter collaborations, like having all of your tools talk to each other, having it in one place, and then instead of juggling multiple tools, you can integrate into one system, and then eliminating some of that double entry that James talked towards. And I think now we can open up to Q&A. Here is information on how to get contact with us. We do have an offer going on right now for $99 for your first 3 months. I know you'll be getting a follow-up email with more of the contact details if you are interested. No need to screenshot anything right away, but we'll be sending out the presentation as well. And I think we can jump into Q&A. How do I see the Q&A questions?
There's a question. When they are 3 payments for the day, say credit card, and they go to QBO, how do we know what the HCP credit card fee is?
Pooja, do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, go for it.
So within HCP, there's a My Money tab. That explains each and every transaction's credit card fee breakout. That's why the undeposited funds exists there. I saw someone else ask about kind of credit card fee breakdowns and everything. So within the integration, one of the things that I personally like about Housecall Pro is if you're using their credit card processor, it will automatically create the bank deposits for you. In that bank deposit screen, they'll use the typical undeposited funds bank deposit screen in QuickBooks, select all the credit cards that are received that day. And that way you can see all of them grouped together in one deposit. And then there'll be one line for each transaction in other deposit or other items with negative lines for whatever that credit card fee was. That way the credit card deposit matches exactly to what goes into your bank account. In addition to that, it all goes to an account that's automatically created called Housecall Pro credit card fee or credit card processing, so that on your P&L, all those fees show up automatically. If you need more information or reports, you can always go into that My Money screen within Housecall, and it will show every single day's payout, what payouts or what invoices were paid, how much the fees were, totals for the fees, everything like that, and you can easily run reports there.
Thank you for answering that. Any other questions that have come in?
There's a question. I've been juggling a client issue all day and haven't been able to be actively focused. Is this going to be sent as a recording? Yes, we are sending out the recording and the presentation tomorrow via email. Make sure to check your junk email though, because sometimes those emails do go into your junk folder. Or you can go right back to the Intuit Partner Webinars Hub and the recording will be there. David Mark asked, is there a certification program?
Are you asking for a certification for QuickBooks specifically or for getting accustomed to the Housecall Pro platform?
Maybe answer for both. I think you can answer for Housecall Pro.
We do not have a certification program, but we do have a lot of coaches in our platform that are there to help learn about the platform, a lot of resources, webinars that we have done in the past, and blogs that it's able to access. And I think onboarding specialists and anyone that you work with within as you're onboarding onto the company will help access all those systems and resources for you. And then on the QuickBooks side, again, like no certification, but there are a lot of resources and help articles to get accustomed to figure out what's going on.
Just to add to that as well, we can share out the resources. I'll put them in the response, David, to your question. Is there are videos in there as well that do like more of a deep dive into connecting the platforms. So you can definitely check those out as well. Like if you're walking through setting up the integration with somebody, and they haven't used it before.
Oh, I think a training program would be amazing. We can definitely take that feedback back and see what we can do with it.
Gary's asking, is there a guide to assist integration if a company is already using both platforms but not integrated?
Absolutely. Madison, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so if somebody is already using Housecall Pro and QuickBooks, but they haven't integrated the platforms, what I would recommend is starting with the help site. So in the blue chat bubble in your Housecall Pro account, you can click there and chat into our support team for like you can put I need help with my QuickBooks Online and we'll send you those help article resources. If you need additional help with the integration, you can also chat in about scheduling a support call if needed with somebody on our QuickBooks team. Typically the max plan and above, you would have like an icon to schedule a call if needed, and our team can walk through the integration with you on a Zoom call as well if you didn't do it during onboarding.
That's really great insight. Thanks, Madison.
Yeah.
Not sure if this is more of a comment than question, but there was a comment in the webinar chat. Price book needs to be in QuickBooks also, question mark. I have one in Housecall Pro. Not sure if you can broach that topic to clarify.
Yeah, I tried to clarify that while I was talking there, Heather. As long as the items are within your price book within House Call, as you use them, it will add them automatically to your price book within QuickBooks. So it doesn't need to be in both systems because it'll automatically populate there.
Gotcha. Here's a question. I use QuickBooks now, but tasks still take forever. Are there things to speed tasks like reconciliation or invoicing? And is there a way to automate more things in QuickBooks or customize the experience?
I think Madison, maybe you can take this question.
Can you repeat that one more time? Is it in the answered section? I was looking at Sandy's question.
It was a chat that came in directly to me. So
Oh, okay.
I use QuickBooks now, but tasks still take forever. Are there things to speed tasks like reconciliation or invoicing? And is there a way to automate more things in QuickBooks or customize the experience?
I think that's more specific to QuickBooks versus Housecall Pro because the automation between Housecall Pro and QuickBooks Online, it should be pretty instant. As far as pushing over, like it usually doesn't take more than about a minute to push from Housecall Pro into QuickBooks Online. So maybe that person is using QuickBooks Desktop, and it's going slow. I'm not sure exactly as far as like speed of tasks.
Yeah, from my end, just is this specifically talking about House Call Pro or just QuickBooks as a program in general would be my clarification on that one personally.
Okay. That doesn't have any clarification. So I sent you guys both that question directly. So
But yeah, if whoever sent that wants to clarify it, I'm happy to attempt to answer if I get some clarification.
gotcha.
Yeah, I see Sandy's comment too. Like we'll have an expert reach out to her.
Great. Does QuickBooks Online and Housecall Pro talk both ways now? Or is it where Housecall Pro only talks to QBO?
So it is mainly just house call talking directly to QBO. There are a few caveats to that rule. Your income accounts from QuickBooks, those are going to pull into house call live. So you can map to your QuickBooks income accounts within house call. You can pull in payments that are applied to an invoice in one-off scenarios. So you could pull a payment from QuickBooks to that same job in house call, but largely it's just going to be house call talking to QuickBooks.
Great. Is there a report for daily finished jobs so we can see if everything came over to QBO?
Yep. So you're going to have different reports in Housecall Pro that can be filtered based on the job completed date. So you could just run a job completed date report for today or any day you're looking at, and then you can reference those jobs to see, make sure those get pushed over to QuickBooks. We do also have that QuickBooks Alert Center. So anything that didn't make it over to QuickBooks is going to show you a notification in Housecall to make sure that it does get pushed over.
Great. And then last question, I think, unless the other questions come in. Regarding payments, our credit card payments and checks get deposited into separate banking accounts. Should our credit card payments get deposited into our main account that checks go into? Question mark.
So I might default to or defer to James a little bit, but I would think it shouldn't matter too much. The credit card payments are going to get recorded automatically by house call. We're going to create those bank deposits to whichever bank account you do connect to. If you're taking manual check payments that you're just going to be taking to your physical bank, those are going to go to undeposited funds by default. They're just going to stay there. It's going to be up to you to go into QuickBooks, take them out of undeposited, and record them to the correct account that they were deposited to. So I don't think it would matter if it's the same account as the credit card or if it's a different account, since they do need to get recorded manually. Does that sound right, James?
Correct. I talked about this a little bit in my area with the credit cards. When you're setting up the House Call Pro integration, they'll have you, if you want to use their credit card processor, they'll have you set up all that to get approved. You do need to make sure when you're setting up the QuickBooks integration that you select the right deposit to account so that the account that you chose to have the credit card payments pay out into is the deposit to account. I see people get that messed up sometimes. So that's one that you have to make sure is done correctly. But beyond that, all other payments, cash, check, other payments, financing payments, if you're not using house call financing, Venmo, Zelle, ACH, if you're not using ACH through house call, all of that goes into your undeposited funds. Actually, all payments do, but they don't automatically disappear. But anything outside of ACH and credit card and financing through house call, those will stay in undeposited funds until you create the bank deposit. Once you, as the business owner, the accountant, the bookkeeper, whoever it is, creates the bank deposit, just like in QuickBooks, when you're using the bank deposit screen, you can select whatever account you want it to go into. So you could put one set of checks into one bank account, another set of checks into another bank account. Just please make sure it's the account that you're actually depositing the stuff into. That would be my only word of advice there.
Great. I think that's our last question. Any final comments, Pooja, James, Madison, I don't see Amber on anymore, but just wondering if you guys have any final comments for our audience on Housecall Pro plus QuickBooks.
I should say thank you to everyone for attending. Stay on the lookout for a follow-up email. We'll be sending out the presentation and the recording of this webinar as well for you to reference at any time. And then feel free to reach out to any of the contact information that we provide.
We're also going to be including information to reach out to James Griner and Waterford Business Solutions. So any just general industry questions, or if you need his support, that will be included in the post-webinar email as well.
Amazing. Thanks everyone for attending.
All right. Thank you everybody for attending, and have a great rest of your day and great rest of your week. And just keep a lookout for that email tomorrow. Thank you so much.